Howdy, everyone. My name is Chris Lahiji, and I am the founder of LDMicro. I'm overjoyed in hosting our first ever open forum because a lot has gone on since the main event back in October. For those of you counting, it has been 188 days since we've made any public comments and just 33 days until our next event, the Invitational. On the surface, it doesn't look like much has happened in the past 6 months. I can assure everyone on this call today that it has been action-packed behind the scenes. In many ways, LD has never been in a more enviable position, and I believe that we can write our own destiny now that we have a partner who believes in our long-term vision. We are blessed to have Freedom as our partner and our parent, and want to thank them for allowing us to continue our operations and, more importantly, our traditions. Joining me on the call today is the CEO of Freedom's U.S. operations, a man that I've had the pleasure of knowing for 15 plus years, and a man that I've had the great fortune of working alongside with, Mr. Robert Watsack. Rob, thank you again for participating in this open forum. I wanted to quickly go over a short slide deck, and then we shall open the floor for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, you guys can use the Zoom app feature, or you can email us at showtime@ldmicro.com. I'm hoping that someone asks me a Star Wars question today because it is May 4th. Jose, let's start the deck. So I am a huge sucker for space shuttle launches. I mean, it is an incredible engineering feat. It basically showcases how far we Homo sapiens have come. I feel like this every single day when I wake up. I'm one of the few lucky ones in life. I was very quick to find out what I love doing. My hobby became my passion, became my profession. So for me, every single day is day one at LD. We started the company back in March of 2006. It was the brainchild of two guys, me and a gentleman who has become very, very famous in investment circles over the past 20 years, a gentleman by the name of John DeStanislaw. And the unique thing about our relationship was the fact that we disagreed on a lot of things, but we had one thing that our stars all aligned, and that was we needed to create a better resource for the microcap community. And it took a while to figure out what that resource was, but on April 28th, 2008, we had our first event. We felt that the conferences that we were attending as investors weren't as great as they should be, and we thought that we could make a meaningful difference. Historically, in our business, the companies that get invited to these conferences are companies that are looking mostly for certain products and services. We wanted to create an event that was based off quality. So the first event took place back in April of 2008. We had about 50 companies and around 250 people, and it was the only event we did at the Omni Los Angeles. Soon after, we moved to the Lux Sunset, and we've been there ever since. In 2015, we totally revamped the website. We wanted to make it into a resource that people can use on a day-to-day basis. Currently today, there's roughly 5,000 uniques every single day to the website. It is my pride and joy because I feel that it's probably the only place on the internet where you have a live news feed, you have active indices, and it's also the home of the LDMicro index. Prior to the index, most guys in our business used the Russell 2000 to get an accurate measurement of what was going on under 500 million. From my understanding, the average market cap in the Russell right now is slightly above 2.5 billion. So we wanted to create something that was closer to home. Every single year, we resize it twice a year. And it is literally one of those things that people now use often to figure out exactly what's going on in the smallest public names. Well, in September of 2020, we were sold to Schrax. The dynamic of this was that we had a very good relationship with the company. They were a longtime sponsor. And I realized that with COVID, it was probably going to take 1 to 2 years to get back to normalcy. For a lot of people wondering, where this main decision came from, it came from a gentleman by the name of Dr. Richard Chin, who was the former CEO of Kindred Bio and a very close friend of mine. I asked him back in April of 2020 how long he thinks this would take, and he said 2 years. And sure enough, it was exactly that. So with employees and no business model, I felt that it was smart to pivot to a stronger organization. Shrax bought us. The deal was announced on September 4th of 20, and the purchase price was $8 million. To fast forward to March of this year, Freedom Holding purchased us for $8.3 million. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience ever since. Next page, please. So what is LDMicro famous for? I would like to think that it's probably our events. We've done close to 40 of them right now. And it's one of those things where it's always difficult because you have to start at zero every single time you do one. Since the very beginning, our focus has always been on user experience and the community that we build. I believe that it is the hardest event to get access to on an annual basis in our business. And everything that we do internally is based off making our people feel really good. The greatest compliment I've ever received is that LD is the oasis in the desert. And we're going to do our very best to keep putting up palm trees and giving you guys alkaline 88 water. My goal has always been to be the aspirational brand in microcap. So what I mean by that is that I want people to work hard, to aspire, to ultimately qualify, to get into our events so that they can meet some of the most legitimate people in our space. And I feel that we have accomplished that. And then lastly, I always want to give everyone the equal opportunity to attend and present. You don't have to necessarily be a patron or a client to get into our conferences. You just have to have all the qualities to enhance the people that are truly there. And it's again, to me, just being able to have different people from different walks of life attend is something truly special. On that note, we're going to have Jose, next slide, please. So we're going to have 2 events this year. One is going to be June 6th through 8th, so 33 days from now. It's going to be our 13th annual invitational, and it will be held at the Lux Sunset. We're looking at around 150 companies and roughly 800 to 1,000 people. After that, we will have the main event in the first week of October. I get this question a lot. We historically had dates in December. We have decided to move those dates permanently because December caused us all sorts of problems in the past, whether it was weather, whether it was, infectious diseases, whether it was, a multitude of things. We don't want to do it anymore. So we've moved it to October. This week it's going to be the first week. And here's the important thing that I wanted to say on this call, and I know that there will be some questions in relation to this. We will remain an open source to the entire industry. So even with the purchase of Freedom purchasing us, nothing will change with the events. They will stay exactly the same in form and function. And I think this is important to note because we've always looked at ourselves as an industry event, and that will continue. Jose, next slide, please. What is ahead? So my focus, our focus, LD's focus is to enhance the quality of the product. And we have basically brought more personnel to really, kind of focus on those details, if you will, to make sure that when people come in, they feel welcomed. There's a lot of amenities. They have access to companies and incredible keynotes. So this is going to be a lifetime thing. And I still think that we're in the early innings of this. That 2,000 company mark is very, very big for me. We're less than 100 companies away, and I'm hoping that we can do it this year. There's very few organizations in financial services that have been able to hit that 2,000 number. I want LD to be a part of it, and then to become the most important resource in the game. So whether it's the index, whether it's the website, whether it's the events, We want to make sure that we are 1 degree of separation from everyone who is meaningful in the microcap space. And then lastly, a platform that showcases the best in the business. I know that we're all looking for needles in a haystack, but I want us to essentially have first option, first look on a lot of these companies that are going to come out and do great things. So with that, I want to open it up to Q&A. And if there are any questions, you can use the Q&A feature on Zoom, or you can email us at showtime@ldmicro.com. Let's do this. Okay, so our first question, and remember, you guys, you can literally ask us anything. You know, it doesn't have to be LDMicro related. I mean, I'd prefer that, but you can pretty much ask whatever you'd like. So our first question is from Mike. Will you be able to do any stock deals or cash only for entrance fees? Okay, so I'm going to answer this live. Mike, thank you for the question. We cannot accept cash deals. We cannot accept stock deals, but you can pay cash. It all depends on whether you ultimately get invited or not. But you know, a few years back, we did start charging an entrance fee for certain attendees. If you are a legit private investor or an institutional investor, it has always been free for you, and that also will not change. So this is done. Oh my God, what is the recommended viewing order of the Star Wars trilogy for a first timer? What if you add the standalone? So this is a very good question that I will not be able to answer. I've only seen the first 3. I haven't seen the rest. You know, from my understanding, there's another 3 or 4 more. There's a spin out. You know, I'm old school, and by far and away, I think the best Star Wars movie was Return of the Jedi. The Empire Strikes Back. So sorry I couldn't answer that question, but hopefully I answered some of it. What is the Freedom acquisition date that you just mentioned? Thank you for the question. The Freedom acquisition date was March 6th. And just to give you guys a little bit of color, Freedom, how can I say this eloquently? This has been going on behind the scenes for a lot longer than anyone thinks. Okay, you know, our former company Shrax, their focus kind of shifted on their own product lines. We wanted to do our different things, you know. But as anyone who has ever been through the ringer knows, it's not easy to get a deal done, and it's not easy to get a deal done in an environment like this. So in this case, there's always been open talks. You know, we didn't really know whether there was going to be a deal or not towards the end of the year. But, you know, stronger heads prevailed. It took a few months to negotiate the deal. And then on March 6th, we announced. The reason I think a lot of people, didn't find out then or are realizing for the first time is that if anyone remembers, a few days later, we had a regional bank crisis in this country that in many ways is still ongoing. So there's been a lot of different things, from the outside that may have caused people not to get that information. And again, we believe that Freedom is truly a long-term partner, and they have given us the creative control necessary to enhance the things that we think that we can do better, and ultimately expand our horizons as time moves forward. Okay, Tim has a good question. If you can use the Force, what would you do to improve investor sentiment? In other words, what macro change event needs to take place before more capital for microcaps is unlocked by investors? Great question, Tim. Look, I've been through 3 of these in my career now, 2001, 2008, and 2022. 2022 was by far and away, at least statistically, the worst year I have ever seen or experienced. Just to put things in perspective, you guys, my personal NAV is down almost 70%, okay? And I don't have a full concentration in microcap either. So if you look at it, if you look at the average company under $150 million last year, I would say that they were probably down between 50 and 70%. And then if you look at liquidity, it was probably down even more than that. So the catalyst, in my opinion, is people just have to feel good for the future. And right now, there's a lot of doom and gloom, and sadly, I don't really see us getting out of this for at least another year. But it is always darkest before dawn, and I feel that once people start making a little bit of money, once there's a couple of liquidity events, the energy will be back for people to buy. But everyone's kind of mortified because they don't know when the next shoe is going to fall, if it falls. So every company out there needs to do the bare essentials well. I always say that the greatest thing that you can be as a public microcap is to be cash flow break even, because then you can ultimately chart your own destiny. So thank you for that question, Tim. Confirming that Q&A set up correctly. Absolutely, Ms. Link. Thank you so much. Thanks to you. It works perfectly. Bill says, congrats on the new marriage. I'm a big fan. You have run the best conference in the business for years. What will significantly change with what you have built with Freedom as the owner? Bill, it's always great to have you on the calls. Thank you again. Bill, the quick answer is nothing. We want to make it in a way where all the people that have participated in the past can participate in the future. We have around 90% of the sponsors coming back year over year. Some of that percentage that we lost has been mostly due to budget restraints and not this new dynamic. And for the most part, I feel that there is a way that we can expand our partnerships with companies that still haven't been a part of the LDMicro ecosystem. So this year has actually been pretty good in terms of new sponsors. You'll see that. On the company side, nothing changes. We'll still kind of keep it at the same size. I mean, post-COVID, we went a little bit smaller. I kind of like that mix. Our apex still was December of 2019, where we had close to 300 companies and around 1,400 people. I mean, we ran out of chairs. We ran out of tables. I was basically using milk crates to get people to find a place to sit down. I don't see that happening in the immediate term. I think Los Angeles is a pretty good venue. We want to do smaller events like we did in previous years, both in San Francisco and in New York. But I think that market conditions have to get better until we kind of open up those satellite series. Okay. So we have a question from Ryan. Ryan, good morning. What, if any, changes will occur with the acquisition? Okay, so I believe that I answered that. In terms of my role, I will always be the founder of LDMicro, and my goal, like anyone else, is to basically discover the biggest winners the earliest. So if you look back at 2002, if you look at 2009, and hopefully somewhere in that 23-24 period, this is where the biggest winners ultimately come out of, because a lot of these things are trading at ridiculous valuations with very little volume. So my stance is if I can find these things early, and if I can get them to present, the bottom line is we have to make people make money. That's what I've always said. If people aren't making money in microcap, they're probably not going to have any involvement. So it's been a tough 18 months, but eventually that tide will turn. So we have a question from Tim. What do the 2,000 companies represent? Tim, thank you for the question. The 2,000 companies are based off the number of organizations that have presented. So we're somewhere in that low 1,900 number. Getting to 2,000 is a big deal for me. And we've already been successful with the invitational, with getting a few companies that are participating for the first time. First-time entrants are always bring out the best in me, because I look at them as rookie cards. And then another question is, what's the one company that you've always wanted to have at the event, but have never been able to be successful? That is a great question. Limonera, LMNR. I have been bothering Harold for over a decade now. He knows who we are. He knows that I've been a long-term shareholder. It's a land company out of Santa Paula, California. And I'm big on the land companies. I have been for a long time. So Tejon Ranch, TRC is the ticker symbol. Tejon has been to the event before, but I've always wanted Limoneira. Great question. Okay, so let's answer these live to get these. Congratulations on the phenomenal news. Curious to further appreciate where, in your view, there's opportunity for the LD brand to be cheaper, better, and or faster for the microcap ecosystem. Anonymous, thank you for that. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like what has been built. I mean, I feel that how can I mean, it's a great question. Where can we expand on? Where can we, I always look at it as where can we bring value at? And can we bring value add to everybody? So the index is an incredible value add because, you know, tens of thousands of people check it every single day. And it's, you know what the heck is going on in your own neighborhood. The website is valuable because there's never any real ads. And it's very simple, and the user can basically dictate what they want to do. So in terms of the value add components, it's a great question. I don't know. And I'm not ashamed for saying I don't know, but I feel that when I see the opportunity, we'll most likely take it. I think the one area that we can enhance further is when I write. So there are, there's a lot of people that read my writing. It's a little bit more on the controversial side. And, I wish I could write more than 2 or 3 times a year. And you'll see something from me coming out probably in the days ahead. So, I would say I wish I could voice my opinion more. There has been talks of me going back to television, which I always think of as a wonderful medium. And there is a good chance that I go back to a large cable news network and kind of preach the gospel that is small company investing. Okay, so anonymous attendee, congratulations, Chris. What are the synergies with Freedom acquisition of Maxim? Okay, so Freedom announced, Rob, when did Freedom announce the Maxim acquisition?
In January of 23.
Okay, so with Maxim, the synergies are that, well, of course, they are owned by Freedom. They will have the ability of ultimately analyzing our Rolodex and deciding, what they want to do with that information. And I've already spoken with the team. They will have our contacts and resources. Every now and then there might be something interesting that comes along where I'm going to talk to those guys and see if it is a true fit. But for the most part, they are going to be focused on what they've done in past years, and we're going to focus on what we do. But there will be synergies. And, I've known the guys for a long time. Prior to this, they've been a platinum sponsor for several years now. And I have great respect for Cliff, Chris, and the entire team there. This is a good question. Rob, maybe you can help me on this. What does Freedom bring to the partnership that Shrax did not? So look, Shrax was, a lot of people have to understand what Shrax is and or was. I always looked at Shrax as a digital marketing company. Okay, they had a great product in Sequire, and they essentially built this thing out, and they wanted to have a platform where they can really expand on Sequire sales. And I don't know exactly what the numbers were when they purchased LD or when LD was under Shrax rule, but they had millions upon millions of dollars of sales leads and a lot of conversions just as a result of that partnership. Okay. We didn't really participate in anything that they were doing on the data side, on the marketing side, on the business side. We were just focused on LD. And to their credit, they gave us the necessary flexibility to come out of COVID. A lot of people tend to forget now that it's a few years later, but we did not do a physical conference in roughly 2 years. And 95% of our revenues historically have been, physical events. So they gave us that leash to ultimately rebuild LDMicro. They were very, very successful in growing their top line and growing their customer count. And then there was a point last year that they realized that, there isn't a lot of synergy. And they had to, business slowed down and they had to make certain sacrifices. I think with Freedom and, even given that it's only been 2 months and it's still early, I think Freedom has showcased, a position of beyond open arms. The fact that Freedom came very early to the conferences. Rob, what was Freedom's share price the first time they came to the event? Was around $6 or $7 a share?
Exactly. First time they presented was December of 18. The stock was probably about $6.
So think about this, you guys. Our parent has been a part of our events from essentially their very beginning as a public company. So I didn't really know much about the organization. They came, they were very happy with the meetings that they have. They ultimately became a sponsor. Every time they would come, they would really enjoy it. And again, it's one of those things that I feel that the level of energy, I feel that the emotional connection, I feel that just when people come to LD, it's just there's more laughter, there's more smiles, there's more, in many aspects, ball busting, friendly ball busting, but they really enjoyed that. And because they experienced it early on in their trajectory, they don't want us to ever lose that feeling. So Rob has come to me, Emma, the entire team, Askat, Timur. They want us to kind of enhance that emotion, that feeling that you get. And I mean, as a guy who literally, started from the bottom up, I understand relationships very well. The fact that most people come back to LD every single year is testament to the product that has been created. Can there be a very high level event in New York down the road? 100%. Okay. Can there be small satellite series like we did in San Francisco? Absolutely. But I feel that LDMicro can basically travel anywhere as long as we have our team members, as long as we have those executives coming back, and as long as we have the dynamic of our community. So, I mean, Rob, do you want to add to anything in this aspect?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I mean, just quickly on the Freedom side, I think, for us strategically, with LDMicro, the relationship, frankly, that we've had with Chris and I've personally had with Chris, we're trying to create a very differentiated platform here in the United States, for Freedom. And clearly LD is, from real experience, the gold standard in the space. And Chris has really provided thought leadership for all the microcap companies, synergistically with the Maxim transaction and what we're trying to build out here in the US, which is truly a differentiated middle market boutique institution that could provide all of the requisite bells and whistles and services to the community. Clearly, the LD deal, made perfect sense for Freedom. As Chris alluded to, the Freedom folks at the very senior management level have had the experience of being involved with Chris and LD for 5 years, have created, enormous respect for him and his organization. And, for us, as we're trying to build this out, it was a very natural fit. And if you look, just take a step back at the parent company level, what we potentially bring to the equation here is obviously we're a NASDAQ listed company. Market cap today is about $4.6 billion. We have cash on our balance sheet of over $1 billion, assets of over $5 billion. We're highly aspirational to continue to build out the platform here in the United States. And clearly, we view and this partnership with LD, the team at LD, and with Chris as a very important cornerstone of what we're trying to do in the United States. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob, for that. And look, again, I've never been more optimistic on the future. It's one of these things where, you know, events are very cyclical in nature. But the fact that we know that you guys have our backs, both in good times and bad, means a lot to me. And again, I think we're going to look back at this years from now and realize how far we've both come. So just to update everyone, I have it seems like 51 questions. I'll try to I've answered 18 of them. I'll try to shoot this as quickly as possible. Okay, so our next one is from Jason. I don't have a question, but just wanted to say on behalf of many of us IR guys, thank you for all the unwavering support over the years. Appreciate your friendship and the support. Thank you, Jason. It means a lot coming from you. I mean, our business is the business of making everyone look good. You know, just a couple of very important pieces of insight for anyone who is on the conference calendar. These guys that are going to these events, I feel that the level of insight that these conferences are showcasing hasn't been this high for a very, very long time. So I'm a kick the tires guy. I love going. I love asking questions. I love meeting people in the flesh. That's something that you cannot do on the virtual side. Our next question is from Mark. Will LDMicro ever go outside of LA for their primary events, perhaps Miami Beach? I'd love to do something in Miami. We checked it back earlier last year. We checked a few venues there. Mark, it's just really expensive. And thus far, I haven't really found a hotel that has a similar flow to the Lux. So while we may do something small in Miami, maybe host a cocktail hour, it's unlikely that we do anything in the near term. So I hope that answers your question. This next question is from Scott. Glad to hear the SoCal events are going to continue as before. Definitely a mark the calendar event within the community. Thank you, Scott. What are plans for future virtual events? Excellent question. We will do, I think there's a lot of virtual events, and for the most part, there's utility in them. I think we will bring back a small virtual event or two. We still get a lot of demand for Zooming with LD, and we still get a lot of demand for road trips. I've promised a few people that I will do a couple of Zooming with LD sessions this year. But in terms of virtual timeline, because there's so many out there right now, I just don't really see, you know, any real interest or any desire for LD to do something formal on the virtual side. Maybe on a small basis, maybe a couple Zooming with LDs, but that's pretty much it. This next question is from Doug. Please give us a state of the industry, microcaps and small caps especially, what they need an opportunity like the LD conferences for exposure in a tough market environment. I mean, Doug, investors were tired last year. Executives are probably tired this year. I can speak, you know, given the fact that I've lost, I mean, I want to say close to $20 million personally. When you lose, when your stock is down, you feel it every single day. Okay. I felt it with Trax. You know, you're just not as happy. So, but in life, usually the best things that you do are the hardest. So for me, if markets go down, say I'm not hosting an event, say I'm just an institutional investor, I would want to go out. You know, the thing that absolutely strikes me as odd is that I still go out and see a lot of companies. I go to their headquarters, I kick the tires, and I ask how many people show up, and most of the time they say hardly any. So where else are you going to go where you can get 150 companies, the optionality of 150 companies over 2 days? You can't do it. If you were going to do a trip, it's going to take you a year, and it's probably going to cost you $100,000. So I still think that there's a huge value add for good events. But I do understand the dynamic that when the stock is down, when you're feeling like crap, your net worth has been crushed, you don't want to go out. And remember, in our business, people like to see others when they're in a position of strength, not weakness. So I understand that dynamic as well. But again, that's why people come to LD. You know, you feel good. There's countless food options. There's staff that is wonderful and attentive. You know, somebody said that we can basically streamline everything and just make it automated. Well, we don't want to do that. We love the fact that we're high touch, and that's not going to change. Okay, next question is from Tim. What things did you learn being part of another company for a couple of years that will help improve LDMicro? Great question. How much it means to all these guys, how much it means to these executives. You know, the fact that they truly want to do well. They want to make people money. They want to make themselves money. If I wasn't part of a public company, I couldn't feel that. So I'm glad I went through. I'm glad we were a part of Shrax for 2 years, almost 3, and I'm glad to be a part of Freedom because you feel for it. There's a higher level of intensity. There's a determination to do better because it's not just you, it's the shareholders as well. Thank you for the question. Do you think George Lucas approves of all the Star Wars offshoots? Absolutely not. I don't think so. But when you have 5 or 6 or 7 or $10 billion, I think your level of apathy goes up. But, you know, judging from kind of the reviews and what they've done, I don't think he's very happy. But I think you're a little bit happier when you're probably worth north of 10 billion. I actually think his net worth is underestimated. Most people's are over. Can you tell the audience about the experience working at Sears in Santa Monica and why you left? My first job was in Sears hardware. Okay, I was the guy in the paint department. The one advantage with the paint department is that it would take the machine around 3 to 4 minutes to mix the paint. I think the new machines, it's less than a minute. So while the paint machine was basically, you know, going back and forth, shaking, I was reading annual reports. So even at Sears Hardware, as a 19-year-old man, I knew what I wanted to do. So in this case, I'm very glad that I don't have to work at Sears anymore. The one huge perk was this was probably the most valuable piece of real estate in Sears Holding because it was literally 1 block from the Santa Monica Pier. So the perk is we always had great parking and we were within walking distance of all the great things that Santa Monica has become famous for. So thank you for that question. Let's answer that live. How does October, Robert asked a question, which is a very good one. How does October differ from June? So the invitational is for smaller companies and for new entrants. Typically, the October main event is for the bigger companies and is typically for the companies that have been successful, you know, over the course of attending the events that in this case get qualified for the main event. So that's kind of the big difference. The market cap sizes are a little bit bigger in October, and the companies are more prominent. Will there be more international companies under Freedom? I'm going to let Rob answer that, but I think the short answer is yes, there will be.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Freedom is truly a global company, you know, with presence in 14 countries around the globe. A lot of the companies that we talk to consider bringing public are from international jurisdictions. So certainly, I think additional international flavor into the LD platform and family is something that will occur moving forward.
And I'd love more international companies, Rob. I think it's, you know, I love the fact that we had a couple companies from Japan at the main event last October. I think it brings a completely fresh perspective. And, you know, my goal is for LD to ultimately be global in the point that when you think about microcap anywhere, whether it's domestic or international, one of the first things that you think of is LD. Mr. Carr, Chris, what are the prior performance statistics of companies that have presented at past LD events? Wyatt, excellent question. We have never done the statistical calculation on that. And I think it all depends on when you ultimately calculate it. But I will tell you one thing. We've had, I believe, 20 or 2100 baggers at the event. So that's kind of crazy how we've had 2,000 companies and 2,000 baggers, and you know, usually finding 100 bagger is 1 in 100. So so in that case, I'll see if I can give you some of that information this summer of this year. How many public companies do you expect at the June conference? About 150. I'd say 150 is the number that we're trying to hit. This is a question for you, Rob. How does LDMicro fit in the long-term vision of Freedom, and what is that long-term vision?
Right. So Freedom, again, at its core, is a retail brokerage firm with 350,000 retail clients, about 1,000 brokers, and about $13 billion of assets. And these investors and retail investors are predominantly overseas. So for the U.S. strategy, we're really trying to, again, build out a differentiated middle market boutique investment bank with all the requisite bells, whistles, and services in place. Strategically, LDMicro fits perfectly into that equation. The platform that Chris and team have built at LD is second to none with respect to the index, with respect to the platform, the investor base, his deep-rooted relationships within the community, within the issuer community. As we build out this platform, Freedom wants to be really in a position to really provide truly bespoke, differentiated levels of service to all of these potential issuers in the small micro cap space. And clearly Chris and how he has run the business, how he cares about the companies, how he cares about the investors, how he cares about the platform. It is really culturally extremely aligned with Timur and Oscar at the parent company level of Freedom, with myself and the team here in New York that are building out the US operation. So from a cultural standpoint, from the way that we look at the world, the way that we look at the industry, it's a perfect fit strategically. And we look at LD way more than people look at it as this is a conference business that we're buying. We're really buying a lot more. We know that we've acquired a lot more in this transaction with Chris and team, and some of the things that potentially we could do strategically with the other pieces that we're putting in place here in the US. It really makes a lot of sense. And the aspiration for Freedom is really long-term to continue to be acquisitive, continue to build out and bring in best-in-breed groups, teams, and businesses to the platform to provide that bespoke, differentiated services, for these companies that we intend to work with moving forward. So, Chris, I'll turn it back to you if you want to build on that.
Thank you, Rob. I'm just look, my stance is that you guys get it. Either you get it or you don't. And for me, I feel that because we have mind share in the microcap world, I want to use that mind share for good things. Historically speaking, there's only a very small contingency of people that have always made money in microcap. I want there to be a true platform that genuine, legitimate people can use to find the next great winners. And granted, it's been tougher to do in the last 18 months, but I feel that there will always be a microcap. And I've always told you this privately, as long as there's a team at LD that wants to do events, you will have a large contingency of that industry showing up each and every time. So here's the good. Let me give you guys the good news and the bad news. The bad news is we'll probably have another 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. The good news is I will be able to answer everyone's questions offline. I'm going to figure out, hopefully someone from the LD team can save all the questions so that we can so that I can answer that, because I think it's disrespectful for someone to ask a question that doesn't get answered. So let's go through this as quickly as I can. From Tim, have you been to Kazakhstan yet? No, but I want to go, and I think I will go probably in the next year. I don't know if I'm going to go to Astana or Almaty, but it is definitely in the cards. From my understanding, it is a beautiful country with great people, so I am excited. Let's see. Let's see. When will the LDMicro index have an ETF option? This is a great question, Mike. To be determined. Okay, I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Okay, listen. Tom also asks, does this period remind you of 2002? I actually think it's worse than 2002. With 2002, there was one big crash, and then things slowly went up. This has just been Chinese water torture. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. This is from Scott. This is a great question. Could you describe the ideal company for your event so that the community can help you identify and persuade such companies to attend? Scott, excellent question. I have learned as an investor that if you want to kind of time the bottom, you have to buy a company 2 quarters before cash flow positive, if you want to time it just right. So we are looking for executives who are financially disciplined, that have real businesses, but have been tossed with the bathwater, the baby out of with the bathwater. Those are the things that we're looking for. So things that are well run, things that, companies that they're focused on shareholder equity, they're focused on share count. They really want to put points on the board. Not every company is going to have the ability of becoming cash flow positive, break even, profitable, but just people who are determined. Another great piece of insight that I can share with you is that historically speaking, the executives who don't like doing conferences are usually the ones that have the most, upside in terms of share price. So guys who are miserable there because they want to be back at home or back at the office working. So those are the guys, the Ted Carcasses of the world from Prophase Labs. Ted wanted to do the event last year. He couldn't because of timing. If anyone knows Ted, ping him because I feel that if we can have 150 Teds or 150 Walter Johnsons at our conferences, Walter Johnson is the CEO of Acme. I think it would be desirable for all our patrons. I'm going to do a couple more. What is the likely breakdown of public versus private companies that will attend in June, and how do you see that change moving forward? Richard, excellent question. Historically, it's been 95-5. So 95% public companies, 5% private. Chris, why not expand the conference opportunity to include small caps, mid caps, and special opportunities? They also can provide great upside. Doug, small cap, mid cap, large cap, these guys have big conferences that they attend. These are large organizations. They have the access and the Rolodex. LDMicro has always essentially been $1 billion and under. What we will do though is we will expand our horizons from under 300 million to 300 to $1 billion in the coming years. But yes, we would love bigger companies, but I don't know what LD can provide that Goldman Sachs can't. So that's why you might not see more mid-cap or large-cap companies. Let's see this. I think I'm going to end it with this. What do you hope LDMicro looks like as a firm 3 years from now? So thank you for the question, Chris. So my dream of dreams is that every single person out there, okay, who is interested in small company investing goes to the website 2 times a day. A lot of people don't know this, but I curate the top news, and it is my pride and joy. So every single day, people go to the website twice a day to see what the heck is going on within the microcap world. I think that, on a legitimate basis, we can grow from 5,000 uniques to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people over time. I truly believe that. And it's proven to be very, very sticky. Okay. The big goal though, is that again, we are the platform of choice for great companies to present and showcase what makes them special. So for me, at least, the dream of LD is that, like OTC, like a NASDAQ, like these established names, it almost becomes part of that. It almost becomes part of that ecosystem where people have to come. But the difference is with us, I want them to enjoy it. On the event side, we're gonna enhance the quality. My dream of dreams is to basically become the Allen and Company or the Davos of small cap, so that if you come once a year or twice a year, you know that the invite is truly special. You know that you are in the company of greatness. And, I think that there's probably no other organization in the last 20 years that has had as many winners come to the table than LD. And that's what keeps me going. Just this desire to find something very small that becomes very large, like an Exact Sciences, like a Celsius, like an Axon. So, that is our quest. And the thing is that you typically find these things in difficult environments. And I feel that we have a lot more grit and determination than anyone will give us credit for. Rob, I was going to ask you, what do you foresee with LDMicro in the years to come?
So, Chris, you in the last 20 years and 15 years of LD have truly become a thought leader in the microcap space, right? And arguably, you're a modest man sometimes, are probably the most influential person in the microcap space, right? And your thought leadership and your platform, I think, speak for itself. The fact that, year in, year out, you bring the 200, 150 to 200 companies, the 1,000 participants, the 50 to 80 sponsors, speaks volume. And I know it's done without not a team of 25 people pounding the phones and marketing. It's just because everyone knows that your platform is truly the gold standard in the industry. And that's why Freedom and our team are frankly extremely proud to have done this acquisition, to include you into the Freedom family and be part of us moving forward. And what we wish and what we want from this is for you to continue to build on the amazing legacy that the LD name and brand and your name and your team have done, and frankly support that professionally, support that financially if is needed, and as we build out this franchise here in the US, the LD will be a cornerstone of that franchise, and you and your participation and what you do and what you will continue to do for this industry makes the people at Freedom, at the parent company, very proud. And frankly, we know that, again, you and I have had many discussions over the last couple of months. This is just the beginning, right? When you rang the bell, we had a conversation, probably an emotional moment together. This is just the beginning, not the end. So we know there's great things to come, and we're happy that you are a partner. We're happy that your team is on Team Freedom, and we know there's great things to come moving forward. So I think stay tuned. I think the next 3 years and beyond with this combination and what we're about to do, we're about to do some amazing things. And again, Chris and you and your team are a cornerstone of what we intend to do. And again, proud to have you, always called you a dear friend, proud to have you within our family today. So I think that's the best way to end this call.
Well, Rob, I want to say that I've never really gotten emotional on any of these calls. I mean, your words give me more than strength. So the fact that you guys are aligned with what we're trying to do is, I mean, words cannot describe. The opening of the NASDAQ, I was joking with Rob, the gentleman who gave me that great intro. Sometimes it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. So I will end the call on this, and I've never actually had this thought until now. So the question was, what do you foresee LDMicro becoming in the years to come? You know what the Russell is to the small cap? I want LD to be for the micro cap. That's my goal. So whether it's utilizing the website or the index or coming to the events, we become synonymous with the smallest public companies on planet Earth. And I feel, again, just the way that I started this presentation, every day for me feels like day one, because it's something that I take pride. I also want to kind of take this moment, not just to thank what your staff at Freedom has been able to do for us at LDMicro, but also the LDMicro team. I mean, I believe kind of on a day-to-day basis, there's 10 to 12 of us now. We work our butts off every single day so that when people come, they get treated with respect, with love, and they have a higher level of comfort when it comes to seeing some of the great names in our business. So with that, you guys, I wanted to, to thank Rob. I wanted to thank Mary, Jose, and the entire team at LD and Freedom for allowing us to do this. And I know that I will see a lot of you guys in the next 33 days. The only thing that I can tell you is come, because when you come here, you can, it's a lot different than doing an email or doing a Zoom. I just feel that the human element will never be able to be replicated. And I think everyone is better off for it. So with that, thank you again for all the questions that I could not answer. My sincere apologies. I have them now. I will email you guys answers. And if you need anything from me, I'm always at chris@ldmicro.com. So with that, may the 4th be with everyone. And I look forward to seeing everyone in person roughly 1 month from now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.